Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, and welcome to a review of the brand new Class 37 from Accurascale. Now, this loco has literally just been released, and last week Richard from Accurascale reached out to me and asked if I would like to borrow one of the production samples to do a video on. Of course I said, yes please, send it on over, and here we are, possibly the most modern looking loco that will ever appear on this channel. Now, just a couple of things before we get into the review. Most of the time when I do these videos, I've paid for a loco myself, and so I'm able to give you an honest review as a genuine customer. Obviously, that isn't the case this time round. I am still going to be as honest as I can about the model, and of course, Accurascale don't have any editorial control over what I say here, but do just keep that in mind as we go through the review. Also, this is a production sample, so it's been knocked about a bit more than usual for testing purposes. I imagine several other people have had their hands on it before me, and I believe it's going off to another photo shoot once I've finished making this video. So yeah, that's just another thing to bear in mind there. But now let's get into the review and take a look at the specs for this model. So as you can see, I've been provided with 37423 Spirit of the Lakes, and this is in the Simplified DRS Compass Livery. With this being a more modern loco, yes, I did specifically have to look that up. From a DCC point of view, it comes with a 21-pin socket, and in fact, this version that I've been sent is actually one of the sound-fitted versions as well, so we'll get to check that out later on too. That means it comes pre-fitted with a speaker. I think there's actually two speakers in this, a larger one for the bass sounds, and then a smaller one to replicate the higher end. Interestingly, it also comes with a power pack, or also known as a Stay Alive, installed as well, and that's included on all the versions of the model, I believe, not just the sound ones. We do get lots of lighting options too, and naturally I'll be taking a look at those later on. Now when it comes to the price, the standard version of this comes in at £169.99, with the sound version costing £259.99. For a newly tooled loco, I feel that's actually quite good, and it's also worth noting that this is cheaper than the recent Bachmann Class 37 too. I'm not an expert on that particular model either, but looking at the prices here, the Bachmann one seems to start at around £208, with the sound versions costing £293 or £318 if you go for the deluxe version. That's also taking it from the retailer's discounted price to not the RRP. So yeah, that's a nice little saving you get with the Accurascale version there, and knowing the quality of their products, I have no doubt it's going to be up there in terms of detail as well. So let's actually take a look at some of that detail, but just quickly I want to mention the weight of this loco because it is really nice and heavy. I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually the heaviest loco I've come across, and it feels nice and sturdy even with all that delicate detailing on there. Like I said earlier, this is in the DRS Simplified Compass Livery, which consists of the loco being painted mostly in this navy blue colour, which is nice and consistent across the model. Of course, the standout feature is the large DRS logo we have on the side here, which is printed really nicely. It's especially impressive when you consider that this isn't just applied to the flat body side either, it's over some of the grills as well, but the whole print is still nice and sharp. Speaking of the grills, these are really nice too. There's really fine moulding, and of course along the top you can just see we've got that nice orange stripe that runs around the entire loco. At the cab ends we do have a smaller white DRS logo printed here along with the loco's number, and you can just see the tiny info panel below that too. There's tons of other printed details on the model too, like these warning panels, and I imagine the nameplates are as well. However, because this is a production sample, which I imagine has been used for the product shots, all of the detailing has been fitted, including the etched nameplates. The upside to that, though, is that you get etched nameplates with the model, which is really nice, though I imagine normally they'll be supplied in the detail bag. I do just want to mention the doors quickly as well, because you can see the handle has been modelled and painted really nicely, but even more impressive are the kick plates below this. These are etched metal parts, and I mean, look at the detail on those. That pattern really is phenomenal, so yeah, I'm super impressed by those. Continuing to move down the loco, the underframe detail is really nice too. I mean, gone are the days where we just used to get a simple black plastic moulded section. The bogies themselves have the springs and axle boxes picked out in red and yellow respectively, and you can see the axle boxes even have the Timken stamp on the outside. There's also the incredibly fine chains fitted to the bogies, and I believe that this is a new improved design to make them a bit more durable based on the feedback that Accurascale got from customers on the Deltic, so that's really nice too. And just generally all along the loco, there's really fine pipe work and little details that at first glance you could easily miss, but the longer you spend looking at the loco, the more jumps out at you. Looking at the cab of the loco, you can see the bonnet has the full yellow end, and of course the centre head code box has been plated over too. Again, there's additional printing around this area with more warning panels, and also the windscreen is really nice too. I will say the glass here looks very thin instead of that prism effect you often get with other models, so that's really impressive. And I do like the wipers too. These look like really fine separately fitted parts. On top of the cab we can also see two horns as well, with the headlamp between them, and I can just see a micro LED in there, so of course that's going to work. There's more lights further down the loco too, and don't worry, I'll spend more time looking at these when I test out the lighting functions in a bit. As you can see, there's lots of detail fitted to the buffer beam too. Again, as I said earlier, this is a production sample for photographs, so normally all this would be in the detail bag for you to fit yourself, but even so, it looks incredible. Now, of course, we have sprung buffers. I don't think anyone was really going to doubt that, and they have a nice amount of resistance to them. There's also some moulded detail on the back of the buffers too, which is really nice. Hopefully you can just about see that. But also, I was really impressed that they've taken the time to paint the actual shaft in silver as well, which is a little detail I don't feel like we often see on models. Taking a look at the roof then, the standout detail here, of course, is the fan and the grille that covers it. The fan itself is a really nice moulding. It doesn't work, it is just static, but I believe Accurascale have said that they're looking to possibly make this operational for future models, although that isn't the case for the second run, which is due next year. In comparison, I believe the Bachmann Class 37 does have a working fan, but you do have to pay for the deluxe version to get that feature, which does cost over £300. Back to the Accurascale version though, I do really like this fine etched mesh they've got for the grille that covers the fan, and that looks super realistic. There's more detail along the roof too. Most of it is nicely moulded on, but there are some tiny separately fitted handrails along it too, which you might just be able to see. However, my favourite thing about the roof is how a whole section of it simply lifts off to access the DCC decoder socket and the speaker, which is an absolutely fantastic design. I'm often surprised at how much of a faff it is to get inside brand new models to fit the decoders, and so this is a really welcome feature. It just makes it so easy, especially if, like me, you're always a little bit nervous or tentative around brand new models. As you can see though, we do have the 21-pin sound decoder already fitted, along with that nice big Acura Thrash bass speaker too, which I'm looking forward to hearing when I get this on the layout. And of course, when you're done, you just pop the roof back in place, and there are magnets to hold it securely, so Accurascale really have thought this one through. That's a big thumbs up from me. So with that, let's get the Class 37 onto the layout, and we'll see how well it runs. So I have the loco on the fiddle yard of my modular layout. I normally do this initial test on a rolling road, but the Hornby rolling road I have doesn't work very well for diesels which have two powered bogies like this model does. So I've got the Class 37 running on a section of straight track in the fiddle yard instead, and as you can see it has a really nice slow speed. I'll try it in the other direction too, and yeah, you can see just how consistent it is. It's not jerking around at all, and I get the impression that I could really let the loco do an entire lap of the layout at this speed and it wouldn't falter once. Trying it a bit faster now. It is a very smooth runner, it's just like it's gliding along the track, and it's really quiet too. Obviously this one is set up for the sound decoder, so it's got some momentum and deceleration built into it too, which again is really nice. Now before I send it off around the layout, let's just take a look at some of the lighting features, and we've got plenty of options here. Obviously, there's the headlight that we saw earlier, that's nice and bright, but there's also the marker lights below this too. Hopefully you can see those. If I have a criticism of this model, these particular lights are a little bit dim. I'm in a quite well lit room here, and I wasn't entirely sure if they were working initially. However, that may be something you can brighten up with a CV change, I'm not entirely sure. And of course, it may be that on the real thing you can't see these in daylight either. There is full control over the setup of these lights though, for night running or for when it's in a depot, and of course if you switch the direction, the red tail lights come on instead. And these can also be switched off entirely if you have rolling stock behind the loco too. There's also the cab lights, which are a really nice feature, and this gives us a good opportunity to look at even more detail which is inside both of the cabs. You can see the control desk is modelled really nicely too, and not only that, but you can switch on the lights for the dials too, which is such a nice touch. As a side note, I believe that Accurascale now do crew figures to fit in the Class 37 as well. Those are made by Model U, who you'll know I'm a big fan of, and actually I'll be featuring some of their other products in some videos very soon. Now finally, for the lighting, as if that wasn't enough, you can also switch on the engine room light as well, which is another nice little feature. I don't think there's any particular detail that you can see through the windows, but it's just a nice little touch. Okay, so now let's test out the sound and see just how well that speaker we saw earlier performs. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty impressed by that. I don't know how well it's coming across on the video because, of course, it all depends on the camera microphone and where that's placed, and also the YouTube audio compression too, but yeah, this sounds really cool in the room. I'll just quickly run through a few of the extra sounds as well. And while we're at it, let's test the Stay Alive too by removing it from the track to see how long the sound stays on. So yeah, that's a decent amount of time there, and again, another really nice feature to have, especially on a sound-fitted loco too. So hopefully that gives you a little selection of what the loco is capable of. But now let's send the Accurascale Class 37 off round the layout, and I'm going to shut up for a bit and let the loco do the talking. So this is a really nice loco from Accurascale. The Deltic and the Class 92 were both very highly regarded, and I can see this joining those ranks pretty quickly. There's a superb amount of detail on this loco, and it's got the running capabilities to match as well. As you can see, it's coping with some of the more dodgy sections of track work on my layout absolutely fine, and like I said earlier, it's a very smooth runner. The whole loco just feels like Accurascale have done that little bit extra in every area, and I have to admit I'm really excited to see what they bring us next. So thank you for watching, and again a big thank you to Accurascale for letting me borrow this loco to have a play with. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for the next one really soon. Bye!